Yo, what's up, guys? It's Noah here, breaking down the NBA slate on Draftkings and Yahoo for Sunday, March the 8th. We're going to cover Sunday's 8-game slate on Draftkings. We have an 8-gamer on DK. We actually have just a 6-game slate on Yahoo. There are 2 games starting at 6 o'clock Eastern Time that are included on the Draftkings slate, but those are not included on the Yahoo slate. So we'll break down both sides, kind of what I'm liking for each site. This Milwaukee-Phoenix game is going to be a big focal point of the DraftKings slate. Giannis is not expected to play today. He is doubtful. So there's going to be a lot to like from the Milwaukee side today that we will obviously talk about in this video. We'll go through each position. We'll talk about the plays that I like most looking at the slate on Saturday night. I'll give you guys some of my early thoughts, what I'm liking for DraftKings, what I like over on Yahoo as well. Just before we do get started, guys, as always, I would greatly appreciate it if you would drop a like down below. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, you can check out all the exclusive content I do have to offer over on Patreon. I'll have some updated core plays posted for this slate, usually about an hour or two before lock. I do post those over on Patreon. I continue to update those as injury news breaks, so even like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 10 minutes to lock, I'm still giving updates to the core plays. So definitely get over to Patreon. You can see all my updated content over there. I do have an article that I post Monday through Friday as well. It's very in-depth. I usually go about 8 to 10 pages long, breaking down all my favorite plays at each position. That'll be posted throughout the weekday. I'll have updated core plays usually every day of the week. I've been trying to give those out more on the weekends as well, and I've been trying to get more videos out on the weekends as well, trying to upload every single day if I can. Always appreciate your guys' support on the YouTube channel. For everyone that watches these videos every day, drops a like every day, I really do appreciate it, guys. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at point guard for today. We'll start off at the top here. So we got 3 options, 10K and above on DraftKings. We got James Harden at 11,300, Luka Doncic at 10,800, and then Russell Westbrook at 10K. So Russell Westbrook did not play Saturday night. This is the second half of their back-to-back. He is going to play, though, today. So just looking at these 3 stud options, if I have to pay up for one of these guys, I think Luka is definitely my favorite at 10,800. Luka just continues to put up big numbers on a nightly basis. I know he was disappointing last game against Memphis. He kind of lost some minutes, though, in that game due to blowout. They beat Memphis by almost 30 points. He only played 30 minutes. We saw the upside, though, that Luka has in that game against the Pelicans. 73 DraftKings points in 41 minutes. Him and Porzingis have been playing so well together. They're not cutting into each other's production. You're still getting monster games from both guys every night. We saw Luka put up a 73-point game against the Pelicans, and I'm pretty sure Porzingis had like a 60-point game that day. Porzingis had a monster game against Memphis on, I believe that was Friday night. Like, you have just so much upside for Luka here. This is still a guy that averages close to 1.7, or I believe over that, 1.7 fantasy points per minute on the season. The matchup against the Pacers, usually they're still a good defensive team, but usually we think of them as being one of the better defensive teams. They are without Malcolm Brogdon, who is a really good defender. He's not going to be out there for the Pacers, so it does become a little bit of an easier matchup for Luka with Brogdon hurt right now. So I do have some interest in him at 10-8. I don't think he's going to be a core play for me, though. Right now, the mid-range is looking like where I want to go at point guard. These Milwaukee guys like Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, we're obviously going to go in depth on these guys. Those 2 guys look like the easiest plays on the slate, just in my opinion. I don't know how you don't play them today. Even though they're going to be chalky, I'm probably going to lock in Middleton and Bledsoe into every lineup I make on DraftKings. It's just really hard to get away from them. If I am going to pay up, though, at point guard, Luka's probably my favorite option. I'm fine with Harden. I'm fine with Westbrook. We should have enough value today where you can pay up for multiple guys if that's a route you want to go. I don't think I'm going to be forcing them in. I just feel like some of these mid-range options look really strong. So getting down to the mid-range, we need to keep an eye on Kemba Walker's minutes, what he's going to play. Last 2 games since coming back from injury, he's only played 23 and 27 minutes. The minutes haven't been there, but if maybe he could play 30, 32 minutes today. They did increase his minute limit a few in that game against the Jazz. They could maybe increase it to like 30 minutes today. We'll just kind of have to wait and see here. But without Jaylen Brown and I believe Gordon Hayward might actually be probable. Let me check that real quick. I think last I saw he was expected to play. Yeah, so Gordon Hayward's expected back. I believe Jaylen Brown is still going to be out, though, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I think Jaylen Brown is going to be – he should be out today. I'm not exactly sure. But if Jaylen Brown is out, that is a little bit of a bump for Kemba Walker. Just keep an eye on that. Gordon Hayward is coming back, so the team's getting a little bit healthier now. But still at 7,400, if we can get Kemba playing without Jaylen Brown, a little bit of a bump in usage there. I do have some interest in him if he's not limited, but just it's something to keep an eye on. If he is going to be limited, again, if they're going to or if he's going to only play like 30 minutes, I doubt I go there. But if maybe we can get like mid-30s, like 32 to 34 minutes from him, then I would actually have a good amount of interest in Kemba. Even in a tough matchup against OKC, the usage should be there without Jaylen Brown on the floor. I know Jason Tatum is doing a lot for Boston right now, but Kemba is still a guy that you can rely on to get 30+% usage on a nightly basis, just about. I mean, on the season, I'm pretty sure his usage rate is near 30% with Brown off the floor. I believe it's over 30%, actually. We'll take a look at it, though, real quick. Usage at 29.1%, averaging 1.23 fantasy points per minute. Those are Kemba's numbers this season without Jaylen Brown on the floor. So I do have some interest in him if he's not limited today. Colin Sexton, someone I like a lot. I was very high on him Saturday. He's having a good game as of the time I'm recording this video, Saturday night. I like going back to him today. I think the minutes are going to be massive for Colin Sexton right now. They just really have no depth at guard. They're without Kevin Porter. Dante Exum is still out. I believe there's also some other injuries in the backcourt. Right now, they're really just giving minutes to Dellavedova, Colin Sexton, and then you'll have Alfonso McKinney get some run off the bench. But it's going to be Sexton playing probably 38, close to 40 minutes a night, at least till Kevin Porter and Dante Exum get back, until those guys are healthy. Sexton should be locked into huge minutes. I actually like the matchup against the Spurs. The Spurs have not been a good defensive team this season. I really like Sexton over on Yahoo. I think that's where he stands out the most, especially because the Milwaukee game is not included on the Yahoo main slate. So guys like Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, we can't go to those players on Yahoo. So someone like Sexton, only $27 at shooting guard, really stands out. I think he's a very strong play again. He's having a good game Saturday night. I expect he continues to produce again heading into Sunday against the Spurs. This is a game that should be close as well. It's being played in Cleveland, which should help keep it close. So really like Colin Sexton in that 7K range. Between him and Kemba Walker, I think I would side with Colin Sexton, just because we know Colin Sexton's going to get like massive minutes, whereas Kemba Walker, we kind of have uncertainty with his minutes. But I think if Kemba is not limited, there's definitely upside for him to pay off that price. But yeah, then we get down to this 5K range where I think we have some very strong plays today. So we'll start off with Markelle Fultz. He's someone I like a lot, 5,800 in this matchup against Houston. Really like this matchup for Fultz, just really like the spot in general for the Magic. I don't think we have a total yet on this game. Or we actually do have a total. Right now I'm seeing 234, 233.5. Of the games we do have on the main slate, this one so far does have the highest total at 234. I think this is definitely a game we are going to want to get some exposure to, especially on the Magic side. It's a big pace-up spot for the Magic, going up against the Rockets, who are playing at the 5th fastest pace in the league. Evan Fournier is out right now for the Magic. He's not expected to play today. We know Jonathan Isaac is going to be out for a while, I believe. I don't even know if he's going to be able to return this season. I think he might be out for the season. But with just Isaac and Fournier off the floor this season, Markelle Fultz actually gets a nice bump in usage. And we saw him have a very productive game last game on Friday night with both those guys off the floor. Fultz's usage bumps up to 26.3%. Averaging 1.07 fantasy points per minute, has a 29% usage rate. If you look at the differential, he does see the biggest spike in usage with Fournier and Isaac off the floor. It spikes up 5.4%. Terrence Ross also sees a near 4% bump in usage. Fultz, however, I really like here at 5,800. I think there's massive upside for him. He only played 27 minutes against Minnesota on Friday night, which was a little bit concerning. But he was really productive, had 24 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, 1 block, 1 steal, 41 Draftkings points from Markelle Fultz. I think most nights we're going to get about 30 to 32 minutes from him. I do expect him to be much more productive when he's on the floor now that Fournier and Isaac are out. I like Markelle Fultz quite a bit at 5,800. I think he definitely stands out in that mid-range. I like him a lot over on Yahoo as well. He's $21. I think he definitely stands out looking at the Yahoo main slate. Because Eric Bledsoe is not available on Yahoo, someone like Fultz stands out as one of the better mid-range options at point guard. But Eric Bledsoe, this is the guy we definitely need to talk about. I guess before we get to him, if you want to play someone like Dejounte Murray against the Cavs, I think that's fine. This is a fantastic matchup. Cleveland has been terrible against guards this season, one of the worst defensive teams versus point guards. So Murray's fine to go to, but it's hard for me to consider any of these guys over someone like Eric Bledsoe. Eric Bledsoe just looks like one of the best plays on the slate today. He's 5,400. We already know that Giannis is doubtful, not expect to play, and we'll take a look at the numbers this season with Giannis off the floor. As you would expect, don't want to go to the Timberwolves. But as you would expect, guys like Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, these guys see massive bumps in their just fantasy production. Their usage spikes, and it's like up 10%, near 10%, I believe. Middleton's usage spikes up 7.5%. Eric Bledsoe sees a 9% bump in usage with Giannis off the floor. Bledsoe has averaged 1.45 fantasy points per minute with a near 33% usage rate. Chris Middleton, over a 33% usage rate, averaging 1.44 fantasy points per minute. At 5,400, I mean, Eric Bledsoe, if you look at any sort of projection system today, like Eric Bledsoe is probably going to project for like probably 8x value. If you give him 30 minutes, he's going to project for like 40, 45 fantasy points. At 5,400, I think you just lock in Eric Bledsoe. I don't really want to get cute and try and fade him. There's going to be people out there that don't play Bledsoe. He's not going to be 100% owned. There's still going to be, especially in like tournaments and like low dollar tournaments, Eric Bledsoe will probably come in at like 70, 75% owned. There's still going to be 20, 25% of the field that doesn't play Bledsoe, that doesn't play Middleton, and those dudes are just paying the rake. And if you don't play Bledsoe tomorrow, I think you're just getting too cute. I mean, the chances of him not being in the winning lineup are just so slim. I think it's so likely you see both of Bledsoe and Middleton in the winning lineup. Also, some of those secondary Milwaukee guys like DiVincenzo, Marvin Williams we'll talk about as a value, even Brook Lopez. Like you could see 3, 4, maybe even $5 be in the winning GPP lineup. I think 5 might be a little bit too heavy, but I wouldn't be surprised to see $4 in the winning GPP lineup on Sunday. And it definitely starts with Bledsoe and Middleton. We'll talk more about Middleton when we get to small forward, but Bledsoe at 5,400 at point guard. He's the best player on the slate. I don't think it's even close. I think you just lock him in. Don't really get cute. Don't overthink it. Just lock him in. On Yahoo, because they don't have that game on their main slate, we can't really talk about Bledsoe there. But I guess if you're playing the all-day slate on Yahoo, then you probably want to lock in Bledsoe as well. But if we're talking about value at point guard, I think it just goes. We go right back to the Bucks. Dante DiVincenzo, he sees a nice bump in his numbers with Giannis off the floor. He has averaged 1.06 fantasy points per minute, 20% usage rate, 15% assist percentage, 11% total rebound percentage. This is a guy that can contribute in all categories. We've seen him put up big games when Giannis is out. I don't expect DiVincenzo to play like 36 minutes, but should pick up a few more minutes with Giannis out. Should get probably mid-20s to upper 20s in minutes. At 4,800, like he's not nearly as good of a play as someone like Bledsoe, but if you're MMing, if you're playing a lot of lineups, I would definitely get exposure to Dante DiVincenzo because I think there is upside for him at 4,800 to go for 6x value easily. We saw Derek White start last game. They went with Trey Lyles at center, DeMar DeRozan at the 4, and they played a 3-guard lineup. They could definitely do that today against the Cavs. Against Brooklyn last game where Derek White did start. He played 27 minutes, had 32 Draftkings points. He was relatively productive. I'd probably expect him to put up similar numbers today, if not better numbers, in a great matchup against Cleveland. So he's another value you could go to at 4,500. Aaron Holliday I like quite a bit. With Malcolm Brogdon out for a remainder of time, that's going to really boost Aaron Holliday's fantasy value. He played 34 minutes last game with Malcolm Brogdon out. He did start ahead of TJ McConnell, which I thought was kind of surprising. Throughout the day, I was expecting the Pacers to go with McConnell in the starting lineup, but they actually started Aaron Holliday. At 4,300, his price came up a little bit. Like, you don't have to go to Holliday on DraftKings. I think you can definitely find better value. But he's still minimum salary on Yahoo. And without Bledsoe, without these guys being available on the Yahoo main slate, our options are definitely a lot thinner. It's a smaller player pool to work with on Yahoo. So someone like Aaron Holliday at minimum salary, $10 on point guard, $10 at point guard, I actually do like quite a bit as a value play. I think he does stand out as one of the better values over there. But then if we're looking for punt plays, I don't think there's really any cheap options under 4K. Keep an eye on George Hill's status. He is questionable. If he were to sit, that would just make me even feel better about Eric Bledsoe. That would make me feel even better about Dante DiVincenzo. If Hill plays, like he could be a punt value you go to with Giannis out. But I think that's it for point guard. So let's go ahead and move on to shooting guard now. So at this position, you got a guy like Bradley Beal, 10,300 against the Heat. Bradley Beal, I doubt he's someone I play much of today. I think he's just more of a GPP option, a guy you can target at low ownership. This isn't the best spot against Miami. Miami's a really good defensive team. They play relatively slow. I know Beal's had some big games against Miami. I think he had like a 60-point game against them not too long ago. It doesn't show in the last 10, but through 2 games against Miami, he has averaged 50 DraftKings points against them, so he's just kind of been mediocre. At 10-3 in tournaments, like you want 60-plus from Bradley Beal. He's got 60-plus point upside in him every time he steps on the floor. I don't know if this is a spot though where you would expect him to put up a ceiling game. I think I'd rather go to guys maybe even like Devin Booker for $2,000 less. Just without DeAndre Ayton, like Devin Booker is going to get a ton of usage, just a ton of opportunity. His usage does spike when you take Ayton and Oubre both off the floor. He put up 50 DraftKings points on Friday night against Portland with both Oubre and Ayton out. Played 39 minutes. Definitely a guy you can look to at 8,400. I think given the savings, I'd rather go to him over someone like Beal. Same with a guy like Jimmy Butler as well. Great spot for Jimmy Butler against the Wizards. 8,100. Expensive price tag, but there's plenty of upside for Jimmy Butler to put up 50-plus fantasy points in this matchup. He's done really well against the Wizards this season, to no surprise. He's averaged 52 DraftKings points through 3 games against them. Between Butler and Booker, I think I would slightly lean with Devin Booker at 8,400, but I have no problems with either shooting guard. I think if I'm going to pay up at this position, those are my 2 favorite guys, Booker and Butler. Sexton as well, you can play here. I think DeMar DeRozan is fine against Cleveland. Really good matchup, but I'd probably rather play Sexton for a little bit cheaper. I'd try and get up to Booker or Butler if I can. Other shooting guards, though, Norman Powell's been absolutely crushing as of late. 40 and 50 DraftKings points his last 2 games, getting huge minutes, playing 38 minutes in 2 straight games. A lot of that has been because of Fred VanVleet's absence. He has a chance to play, supposedly. This is what the report right here says in the blurb. Just keep an eye on that. This is a 9 o'clock game. This is the last game on the slate, so I don't know if we'll have that news before lock. Assuming VanVleet's out again, I think Norman Powell is fine. I doubt he's someone I play a ton of, though, now that he's up to 6,600. If he plays, though, if VanVleet plays, obviously I'll be completely off of Norman Powell. VanVleet himself would become pretty interesting. He's only 6,200. Assuming he's not limited today, I think at that mid-range, he'd be a fine play to go to. Terrence Ross I like as well in the mid-range. Without Evan Fournier, the minutes should be there for him. Should get more usage with Fournier off the floor. Played 34 minutes last game against Minnesota. Even coming off the bench, he still played 34 minutes. Had 30 DraftKings points, was relatively productive. Just kind of your typical Terrence Ross game. This is going to be a guy that plays mid-30s in minutes, going to give you 30, 35 DraftKings points most nights. You'll occasionally spike a ceiling game from him like he did against Minnesota on the 28th, where he just knocks down a ton of shots. I mean, this is a big-time pace-up spot against Houston, so maybe you could get a ceiling game from Terrence Ross. I think he's very safe, though, so if you want to play him in cash, I have no problems with that at 5,800. Tournaments, the upside might be a little bit limited. I honestly think you get more upside from Markelle Fultz, and he's the same salary. So I'd probably rather go with him in tournaments, just looking for upside. But then if we're talking about cheap options at shooting guard, if we're going under 5K, you got DiVincenzo you can play here as a cheap option. Derek White as well. Aaron Holiday's fine, but I prefer him more on Yahoo. But yeah, I think that's it for shooting guard. So let's go ahead and move on to the small forward position. So at small forward today, looking at guys I haven't talked about, you do have Jason Tatum for 9,500 against OKC. Tatum's price came down a little bit on DraftKings. He was 10K on the last slate. Really disappointed against the Jazz. Just 34 DraftKings points in 33 minutes. It was kind of surprising to see him do so poorly. Now that Gordon Hayward is expected back, now that Kemba Walker is seeing his minutes ramp up, I'm kind of off Tatum while he's this expensive at 9,500. I just don't know if I want to pay this price tag for him with the team starting to get healthy again. Whenever you had all of Kemba, Hayward, Brown, like all those guys out, then I could see paying 10K for Tatum just because he was going to get so much usage, so much opportunity. The usage is going to go down a little bit with Kemba back, with Hayward back. The minutes probably won't be as high either. He only played 33 minutes even in a close game, whereas against Cleveland, when all those guys were out, he played 40 minutes. So at 9,500, there's probably other guys I'd rather pay up for today. I'd rather save salary and play like Jimmy Butler for $1,400 less. Obviously, Chris Middleton is just the clear small forward play today. He's 6,500 on DraftKings. I think on DK, you just lock him in as one of the best small forward options. We talked about it earlier. Without Giannis, him not expect to play today, Chris Middleton sees a massive bump in his numbers overall. He's played 630 minutes with Giannis off the floor this season, averaging 1.44 fantasy points per minute, 33% usage rate, 25% assist percentage, 12% total rebound percentage. Like, those are just elite numbers all around. I believe last time Giannis was out, like, Chris Middleton put up like 70 DraftKings points or something. I know these games right here against Sacramento, Orlando, I'm pretty sure Giannis was out in those games. Like, Chris Middleton just has so much upside when you take Giannis off the floor. Like, he could drop 60 DraftKings points a day, and I would not be surprised at all. Between Bledsoe and Middleton, I think given the $1,000 savings, I'd probably play Bledsoe over him, but I'll just be straight with you guys. I'm going to play both these guys in probably every lineup. I don't think you need to, like, pick one or the other. I think you just play both of them. I guess if you wanted me to choose one, though, I'd probably side with Bledsoe because he's $1,000 cheaper. They have very similar numbers. Bledsoe's actually averaged 0.01 more fantasy points per minute. He's actually been a little bit more productive than Middleton. Bledsoe, his minutes, though, usually aren't as high as Middleton's. Like, Middleton will get like 36 minutes, whereas Bledsoe, he probably tops out at like 32 minutes. Just play both. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. They're going to be chalky, but I think this is chalky. Just kind of eat and move on and don't really get cute with it. Just play these guys. But then other small forwards, looking for guys in this mid-range. Terrence Ross, we talked about, you could play here. Dario Saric had a big game last game, and I think it kind of makes sense. Without DeAndre Ayton, without Kelly Oubre, like he's just going to play monster minutes. He played 38 minutes against Portland, had 42 Draftkings points. I don't know if we can expect Saric to put up another 40-burger, but if we're going to get high 30s in minutes from him without Giannis, that's going to make the Bucks defense a lot worse. I think this game between these two teams can definitely stay close. We don't have a line on this game right now, but if I had to guess, I would say the Suns come in as probably like 6-7 point dogs. If I had to guess, maybe 8-point dogs. But regardless, I think this game stays close. Without Giannis, Milwaukee's defense is a little bit worse. It becomes an easier matchup for Dario Saric. So he's fine to go to at 5,600. I do expect the minutes to be there with all the injuries to the front court right now. I believe Cameron Johnson is still out as well. Yeah, he's already been ruled out for this game, so that solidifies the minutes even more for Dario Saric. But then if we're talking about values, cheap plays at small forward, I don't think there's really anything that stands out under 5K. Besides maybe, I don't think Marvin Williams, we're going to talk about Marvin Williams. I don't think he's small forward. Yeah, Marvin Williams is just power forward, so we'll talk about him when we get there. I think we covered all the small forward plays. This position is obviously going to be centered around Chris Middleton. He's the clear best play here. Jay Crowder is not suspended, but he is out with a concussion right now. So maybe you see guys like Derrick Jones Jr., Andre Iguodala pick up more minutes. Iguodala was the beneficiary last game when Crowder got hurt. Crowder played like 10 minutes, and then he got hurt against the Pelicans. You had Iguodala finish out the game, played 25 minutes and 33 Draftkings points. He's 3,300 today. Derrick Jones Jr. played 23 minutes and had 17 Draftkings points. If I had to pick one of those two guys, I think DJJ is probably the guy I'd prefer, just because I think he's more likely to play the most minutes between the two. Like Iguodala was kind of being limited to like mid-teens in minutes. I don't expect him to get like 25 minutes a game moving forward. I think you're more likely to get 26, 28 minutes from Derrick Jones Jr. than you are from Iguodala. So without Crowder, if you want to play one of those two guys, I think they're fine to go to, but still don't consider them like top values today by any means. So let's go ahead and move on to the power forward position. So at power forward today, obviously Giannis not expected to play today. He's doubtful, so we don't really need to touch on him. Other power forwards we could look to, though, not much at the top. I think Siakam at 8,800 probably not a guy I really get to today. Now that Serge Ibaka's back, that definitely takes a hit for Pascal Siakam. He kind of disappointed last game against the Warriors. 38 minutes, 33 Draftkings points. Like, the minutes are still going to be there. It's just that his usage, his just overall fantasy production on a per-minute basis is going to go down with Ibaka now back in the lineup. Sabonis is expensive as well at 8,700. It's not the best spot against Dallas. I do expect Sabonis to be very productive when he's on the floor. Without Malcolm Brogdon, he actually does see a nice bump in usage. He's going to play huge minutes. I mean, he's going to get 34, 36 minutes. This game should be close. I'm fine with Sabonis. He's probably my favorite pay-up option if I am going to pay up at this position. He did put up a monster game against Dallas earlier this season. I'm not sure if Porzingis was playing then, but he had 59 Draftkings points in 36 minutes against them. Like, between Sabonis, Siakam, Tatum, Aaron Gordon, like, I'd probably prefer Sabonis over all those guys, but I don't think this is going to be a position I really jam in any of these expensive options. Aaron Gordon in a pace-up spot against the Rockets I have a little bit of interest in. More on Yahoo because he's small forward, which is kind of a weak position, especially because you don't have Chris Middleton as small forward. You could definitely pay up for Gordon there at $35. Christian Wood, however, is someone I like quite a bit. So on DK, I don't think you really need to go there just because we have other plays like Middleton at small forward. We got some value we're going to talk about at this position from the Bucks. But on Yahoo, where that Bucks game is not on the slate, I think at $33, Chris Middleton definitely stands out over on Yahoo. Comparing salaries, he's $4 less than Pascal Siakam. He's $5 less than Domantas Sabonis. He's only $1 more than Julius Randle. I definitely like Christian Wood in this matchup against the Knicks. Obviously, a great spot here. The Knicks are not a good defensive team. In terms of defensive rating on the season, I'm pretty sure they're bottom in the league. They're 23rd in defensive rating, We know Christian Wood is locked into huge minutes right now. Like, he's playing 36, 38 minutes a night. Got 39 minutes last game against OKC. He had a tough matchup Saturday against Rudy Gobert and the Jazz. I'm not sure how he's doing Saturday. Even if he struggles or if he does well, it doesn't really matter. I'd expect him to play really well in this spot today against the Knicks. This is a game that should be close. Only problems here is that both these teams do play really slow, so you're not going to expect a ton of points scored in this game. But we know the offense is going to run through Christian Wood. This dude's pretty much a lock for like 20 and 10 every night. He can get defensive stats as well. He's got 45, 50-point upside in this spot. So at $33 on Yahoo, I think he does stand out as one of the better power forward options to go to over there. Just other power forwards, I think Julius Randle's fine on the other side of that game against Detroit. I like the matchup. Detroit's not a good defensive team. They've been towards the bottom of the league in defensive rating as well. They are 22nd in defensive rating. It's just a slow-paced game, so I don't really want to get a ton of exposure to this game. I don't like a ton of plays here. If I was going to play anyone in this game, though, it would definitely be Christian Wood and Julius Randle. Like, those would be the two guys I would go to. Let's take a look at some other power forwards, though. Sarge, we talked about. I like him quite a bit at $5,600. Even with the price coming up, I still think he's in play. Trey Lyles going to get just a ton of minutes. I know he only played 23 minutes last game against Brooklyn. That was kind of a surprise. Most nights, I think we're going to get like 32, 34 minutes from Trey Lyles. He was still pretty productive, though. In those 23 minutes, had 29 Draftkings points, 19 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and a block. At 5,100, I think Trey Lyles is still in play. Most nights you're going to get 32, 34 minutes, probably 30, 35 DK points. At 5,100, I do like him in the mid-range. But then in terms of value plays here, under 5K, I mean, not really much stands out. If we're talking about like in this 4K range, when we get down to these punt options, though, I think this is where we do find some value plays. So we'll just go ahead and talk about Marvin Williams. So with Giannis not expected to play, either one of Marvin Williams or Ersan Ilyasova is going to wind up starting. Recently, whenever Giannis has been out, they've been going with Ersan in the starting lineup. But Ersan has actually been getting DNP'd. He hasn't played like the last 3 games. He's just been a healthy scratch. Last game he played was on the 2nd of March against Miami. He played 14 minutes off the bench. If we look at Marvin Williams, he's actually been getting run every game. He played against the Pacers, so they had a game March 4th against the Pacers. Marvin Williams played 20 minutes that game. Ersan Ilyasova did not play at all. Against the Lakers on Friday night, Marvin Williams played 20 minutes off the bench. Ersan Ilyasova did not play at all. I just don't see why they would start Ersan when they've been giving the minutes to Marvin Williams right now. Like, he's been the backup to Giannis pretty much. At still minimum 3K on DraftKings, assuming Marvin Williams does start for Giannis, I think he's probably one of the better value plays on the slate. I assume he plays like 30, 32 minutes. Maybe not that much. Maybe he gets like 26, 28. But still, I would expect him to be pretty productive when he's on the floor, especially when you take Giannis off the floor. He's only been about a .75 fantasy point per minute player this season with the Bucks, with Giannis off. But at 3K, it's really hard for him to fail at this salary. I think he does project as one of the best values on the slate, assuming he does wind up starting. We've seen whenever Ersan gets the start for Giannis, he usually always goes out there and crushes value. If Ersan were to start, you can just pivot to Ersan. Like, if you're playing a lot of lineups and you've got Marvin Williams in your power forward spot, you can just switch, or you can just global swap him to Ersan because Ersan's 3K as well. I'm assuming that Marvin Williams starts, though, just because he's been playing, whereas Ersan's been getting DNP recently, hasn't even been touching the floor. So yeah, that's what I'm liking for power forward. Let's go ahead and hit on the center position real quick before we end the video. So at the top of the center position, we got Kristaps Porzingis as our most expensive center option. He's $9,300 on DK. Definitely like Porzingis here. The dude's just been absolutely crushing lately. Even with Luka back in the lineup, like, it really hasn't affected Porzingis. He's just been smashing every night. 66, 62, 75 DraftKings points his last 3 games. In close games, Porzingis is playing huge minutes. He put up a monster game against the Pacers earlier this season, had 59 DraftKings points in 36 minutes against them. I believe that Luka was out that game. I don't think Luka played that game, so obviously that helped Porzingis, but just this month, like, if you look at his numbers this month, he's averaged like 1.75 or 1.8 fantasy points per minute in the 3 games he's played in March. It seems like he's healthy right now. The chemistry is there with Luka. Like, these guys are playing so well together. We saw kind of towards the middle part of the season, the beginning of the season, like, it was tough to predict what Porzingis was going to do on a nightly basis. Like, most nights he was priced around 6K, 7K. Well, now he's kind of been the elite fantasy player we expect him to be, giving you 50, 60 DraftKings points a night. I think with all the value we have today, it should be very easy to pay up for Porzingis. So he's definitely one of my favorite pay-up options at center. Also like Vooch a ton here against the Rockets. I think this is a smash spot for Vucevic. We know this Rockets front court is just really depleted right now. They're running P.J. Tucker out there at center. P.J. Tucker, he's a good defender. He's a elite defender for his size. I don't think he's going to be able to slow down Nikola Jokic, though. Like, Jokic should be able to have... Jokic. I don't know why I said Jokic. Nikola Vucevic. Vucevic should be able to have his way in this matchup against the Rockets. I know the Rockets have been, like, one of the worst rebounding teams as of late. Let's take a look. Last 10 games. Look at their rebound percentage over the last 10 games. They're dead last in rebound percentage over their last 10 games. Like, this is a spot where Vucevic could absolutely dominate on the glass. We could see him put up a 25 and 15 kind of game, give you 50, 55 DK points. It's very close between Porzingis and Vucevic. I think both guys are great plays today. If I had to choose one, given the savings, I think I'd slightly lean Vooch over Porzingis, but there's so much value with Marvin Williams at 3K. We've talked about other values from the Bucks. Like, you could definitely play both guys together, and I really have no problems with that. I do prefer them over someone like Sabonis. So when you just look at the center position, definitely give me Porzingis and Vooch over Sabonis today. Bam Adebayo, I like a ton as well, though, at 8K, He looks like a really good value. Just such a good matchup here against the Wizards. We know this Wizards team is just terrible defensively. They've been one of the worst defensive teams in the league. In terms of defensive rating this season, they are dead last in defensive rating. Adebayo should absolutely crush this Wizards front court. He's only 8K as well. Price tag came down a little bit. He was 8,200 Friday night against the Pelicans. He did okay in that game. Wasn't great. 42 Draftkings points in 36 minutes. Kind of was one of those weird games from Adebayo where he didn't do much on scoring, but he really contributed with the peripherals. Only had 9 points, but had 12 rebounds, 4 assists. Really contributed with the defensive stats, though. Had 4 blocks and 3 steals. Like, Adebayo is just one of those guys that's going to give you upside, or gives you upside in all categories. Not a scoring dependent player at all. Like, he can score, not even 20 points. He can score like 15 points and still give you 50 fantasy points. Like, we've seen Adebayo put up monster games just from contributing with the peripherals. Scored 14 points against Milwaukee. Still had 44 fantasy points because he contributed with 13 rebounds, 5 assists, 3 blocks, 1 steal. He's got upside in all categories. It's a fantastic matchup. It's a big-time pace-up spot for the Heat here against the Wizards. Center has a lot of good options. You got Porzingis, you got Vucevic, you got Adebayo. Right now, I think Adebayo is my favorite just because he's the cheapest of the 3, and I think he has just as much upside as the top 3 guys, but really have no problems with either. If you want to pay up for if you want to pay up for 2 of the 3, like, you could definitely fit Vooch and Bam Adebayo in a lineup together because of all the value we have. I definitely like Adebayo the most, though, at 8K if I just had to choose one. But then taking a look at some other centers, in this mid-range, not much stands out here. I think Serge Ibaka at 6K is fine. First game back from injury against the Warriors, played 30 minutes, had 37 Draftkings points. I'd expect him to put up similar numbers today, if not better numbers. He's still very reasonably priced at 6K, so I think as a mid-range center option, he stands out. Aaron Baines got his price jacked up a ton. He's up to 5,400 on DK, but for good reason. Played 36 minutes Friday night against Portland with DeAndre Ayton out. The minutes are going to be there for Aaron Baines. Now, I don't expect him to shoot 52% from the field and 64% from 3 like he did last game, but it's still a really good spot. It's a big-time pace-up spot, or just, I wouldn't even say it's a pace-up spot. I would just say it's a fast-paced game. Both these teams are top 10 in pace this season. The Bucks lead the league in pace. The Suns are playing at the 9th fastest pace. This game, I assume, is going to have one of the highest totals on the slate once we do get a total for this game. So I still like Aaron Baines at 5,400. I think because of his price coming up, he's not a must-play like he was Friday night. Like, I locked Aaron Baines into all my DraftKings lineups on Friday night. I just thought he was that good of a play at minimum salary. Now that he's 5,400 today, like, you need, I would say in tournaments, I probably want 35 to 40 DraftKings points from Baines for him to be a good play at that price. He has that upside in him for sure. But with all the good expensive centers we have today, Vooch, Porzingis, Bam Adebayo, I think center might be a position I want to try and pay up at, especially because we have value at power forward. We have these very strong, cheapish options at point guard like Fultz and Bledsoe. You got Middleton in the mid-range at small forward. We should have the salary to pay up at center, so don't see myself getting to a ton of Baines today, but I still think he is in play for sure, even up to 5,400. Brook Lopez I do like quite a bit as well. With Giannis out, he does see a little bit of a bump in his numbers this season. He's averaged over a fantasy point per minute with Giannis off the floor, 22% usage rate. I do believe he sees a spike in usage. He sees a, let's see, Brook Lopez. Yeah, 4.6% bump in his usage rate with Giannis off the floor. It's a really good matchup against the Suns. This is a spot that Brook Lopez smashed in. I believe Giannis was out that game, or maybe, no, I think Giannis actually played that game. But Brook Lopez had 42 DraftKings points in 32 minutes against the Suns. He had 9 blocks in that game. Don't expect him to get 9 blocks again. But with no Giannis, the usage, the fantasy production should be up for Brook Lopez. Should play probably about 30 minutes if I had to guess. At 4,600, if you're going to go to like these cheap options at center, I think Aaron Baines and Brook Lopez are probably my 2 favorite options, like 6K, 5K, and below. But yeah, I think that's probably it for center, guys. I think we covered everything here, so I think that's it for the video. Hopefully you guys did enjoy this video. I really do appreciate you watching. If you did enjoy, make sure you drop a like before you get out of here. As always, I do appreciate that. Hit that subscribe button as well. Click the notification bell so that way you do get notified every time I upload. And if you have not yet, you can follow me on Twitter, which is linked down below in the description, at DFS by Noah. I am very active over on Twitter, so if you do want to give me a follow there, I would appreciate it. You can also check out all the exclusive content I do have to offer on Patreon, which is linked down below in the description. I will have some updated core plays posted for the slate. If anything changes throughout the day, I'll post updates over there. I'll be back to putting up my article Monday through Friday when the new week starts. I'll have my article up on Patreon that you can get access to, very in-depth, highlighting all my favorite plays. Our Discord chat you can also join. There's about 120 people in there now, just kind of talking through things. I'm in there throughout the day answering questions as well. So check out the Patreon link down below. Give me a follow on Twitter, which is also linked down below. Drop a like and subscribe, and I think that's pretty much it, guys. Appreciate you watching. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.